So we'll start looking at this kind of how do I use Moodle to make it less work for me, and that's really what it's all about, is less work for me. And I'll explain some of the things I do and why. Part of it is recognizing that I know how Moodle is built. It's free software, and it's distributed to educational institutions. So it's largely written not by programmers. It's an open source community, and it's largely written by computer science instructors who got frustrated with the systems they had in the universities they had. It's been adopted pretty much worldwide for high schools, and it's fairly easily customizable, but it has a whole bunch of drawbacks and caveats. And the biggest drawback is the technology it's built on, that kind of PHP technology, doesn't have a lot of the work getting done on your browser. So you do something on your browser and you click a button, and what it does is it packages up all of the information that it has. It fires it off to the server. The server runs a PHP script that takes the information you gave it, looks up some stuff in a relational database, and combines the two back together in a whole new web page. That sends that whole new web page back to your browser and refreshes the whole page. So there's a speed thing there, right? Like if you're editing lots of things quickly, you're not editing them quickly, because every time you edit something, it has to do that whole round trip where it packages up your information, sends it to the server rebuilds the entire website and sends it back to you. That part's a little bit of a pain, and there's newer technology that goes away from that, but Moodle hasn't or isn't changing. We're currently on 3.9 at the school, and it's customized by the admin department at the school. So a lot of the logos and plugins that are put in there are things the school has chosen. The upgrade they're going to do is to 3.10. 3.9 is the LTS, or the long-term stable version they're using now. 3.10 is what they're going to upgrade to, I guess, in a couple days. There's a 3.11 out there. So it's slowly migrating to have more and more stuff done in the client. I don't know. We'll see what it does. At VFS, we've kind of adopted the whole Moodle does stuff. And if you see in the background, you've got this whole dashboard on the side. If you collapse it up, what VFS has done is we have a collection of different folders to keep every different program in. Now, they keep each program separate because they want to generate the grades separately. And there's a whole side of this package which generates grades and grading information. So we'll get into a little bit of how we can manipulate that. So you can always find other people's stuff. You can just go look up the program, and if I want to look at game design things, I can look at it term by term. You'll also notice this grayed out one, which is new courses. And so when we finish the end of a term, what the admin people do is they go ahead and they take a look at, hey, we're going into term 3. What was the last group of term 3 courses? And they build what they call a shell for each course, which is just an empty bucket. And they get slotted in here underneath all of the unused or new courses bucket. Now, they're all empty to begin with, usually. And it's up to us to fill them in. So what we do is Daniel and Rebecca will go through and take those empty shells, and they will import. There's actually a tool at the bottom here. In my administrative tools, there's actually a tool where you can select a course and manage who can see it, and you can also import a course into it. Now, as instructors, we don't have to do this. This is done for us. Okay, this is what Daniel and Rebecca do. Once they import a course for us, it shows up in My Courses. And how things show up in My Courses is that when you look at a course, and for instance, if I choose this one, this is the Digital Design JavaScript and jQuery course. And how they decide who's in it is when they import it. If we take a look at, I should look at one I can actually edit. go with pre-pro design. If you look at users, you can look at all the enrolled users, and you'll see all of the students. Now they get enrolled with a big batch when they create this shell. If you have a course you're supposed to be in, but you don't show up in it, all we have to do is enroll you in it. And Daniel and Rebecca can do this for you. So if you know you're supposed to be part of a course and you're not, you can just send them an email and say, hey, can you add me to this course? Also, if you see a course that you're not supposed to be in, but your name is attached to, you can get them to remove you from that course as well. Inside the course, the roles that you have are assigned system-wide. So different people have different roles, and mostly what we've done in GDPG is give everybody the full administrative kind of rights to Moodle, just so that you can manipulate things more easily. But you can see Jeff here is in there. So if you're not in, you can go add yourself in, and you should be able to look at who's enrolled in the course. Now, that's just the first part. That's getting into it. Daniel and Rebecca load up all of the topics, and the way we typically set up our courses is every different course shell, that's the whole thing you're seeing on the screen right now, has typically 7 topics. Now you can add more to this. Those 7 topics we typically map 1-to-1 to a week. And so for every topic, we'll generate a week. Now Chris has been doing this. The legal requirement we have is that for every course is registered with the provincial education folks, PTIB. And to give accreditation to our program, to put some weight behind our diplomas, they approve our course curriculum. And the way they approve it is they look at the course outlines, the PDFs. So when we build course outlines, we try and keep them relatively generic. All of the course outlines, if you want to change them, Chris has been adding the editable course outline in the Moodle pages. Please leave them hidden. The students should not see them or be able to edit them. And if you need to edit one of the outlines, by all means download it and edit it, but let Chris know that you want to change it and send it to him, as well as uploading it back to the editable course outline and regenerate the PDF for you. Okay. The course outlines are what we're held accountable to. Make sense?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So the difference between the editable one is most likely like a docx file, and the course outline that's student facing is PDF. Is that correct?
Yeah. So as a habit, I make everything that the students get a PDF, so that they're not really easy to edit or change. Hey, you said you were going to do this, and they've edited the document to make it favorable to them. Now, it's not likely that a student's going to do that, but it just removes the temptation. The amount of work it would take to load up a PDF, edit the PDF, try and present it as the real one is a little bit extreme. So everything I release to the students, I don't give them my slides. I give them a PDF of my slides. I don't give them the course outline. I give them a PDF of the course outline. Right? So same kind of idea. Now, what I'm showing you guys here, I'm actually going to go through and set up one of my courses. The new course shells you can see grayed out here. And for every new course shell, let's go look at Business of Games. Everything in here is imported the exact same way it was for the last time I taught this course. And I've already been through this one. And the attendance has been filled in by Moodle. So it's mapped the new class to it. I'm going to go pick one I haven't done.
I have a question.
Yep.
So if you want to modify anything in the course,
yep.
Just modify on your current one, and then next turn you will just copy from this one.
Right. So we always roll them forward, which also means if you delete something, it won't get rolled forward again. You know what I mean? So this term's course is an import from last term, which is why we tell people to delete things, because we still have the last one. So I have GD61 and GD60 pre-pro technical. So I don't feel any need to keep anything in GD61 pre-pro technical if I'm not going to use it, because I can go get it again from GD60's pre-pro technical using the little list on the side here. I can go back to game design, term 4, and look at GD60's pre-pro technical, wherever it
ended. I
ended.
usually just label them for my list, because my list is crowded with I don't use anymore.
Yeah, so the list here, my courses, okay, that's what things you're currently enrolled in. So there's two ways. One, you can remove your enrollment from it, and you get Daniel or Rebecca to do that. Or you can have them flag you as suspended in that course, and it shouldn't show up here. And we have had issues and bugs in Moodle. I mean, this is a list that's tied to a database table. So if you're in the database table, you're going to have these courses show up in your list.
So are you saying the ones that you show up in yours are old and they shouldn't be that?
Well, yeah, they're just
Yeah.
old, right? There are things from 6 months ago. So
Yes.
I'll never click them anymore.
So notify Daniel and Rebecca and ask them to remove you from the course. And if that doesn't make them go away, I would wait until after they do a Moodle upgrade, because that may be one of the bugs they're fixing. We've all had that experience.
Oh, yeah.
To be sure, with this particular version.
I've got a class from last year that I didn't teach.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a database table that just lists all your courses that you're enrolled in. And I am 100% confident that when you get removed from a course, it just simply ticks a flag in that database, and there's a query that just isn't paying attention to that flag to generate this list of my courses. So like I said, you can do two things. You can get removed from the course by going to enrollment. Like and it would be a little bit painful, but if I want to kick Braden out, I can go select Braden and go and remove him from the course.
Can I do that myself then?
I would get Daniel and Rebecca to do that. Okay. I usually let them deal with Go ahead, Quinn.
Yeah, one thing to keep in mind with how they handle Moodle too is they always roll out classes forward a couple weeks before the end of term.
Yeah.
So if you add or remove or correct something in term, like in terms for
in week 6 or week 7.
You have to do that in the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's essentially going to be implemented.
Yeah. So there's 2 steps to that. Just keep in mind. The first step is done by VFS admin, where they create the empty shells, and they literally have no topics in them. They're empty. And that's why you got to go check them. And Daniel and Rebecca import from last term. It's also, whether Daniel knows it or not, relatively easy to go through and select everything in a course shell and delete them all and import them again. So if there's a ton of changes in week 7 and you notice they're not in the next term's version, it might be easier to say, hey, Daniel, can you re-import? And you can re-import parts of it if you do the import. And it's just an admin option down here that they get. This import. Well, why don't I'll back out of it. If you click to import, I get to choose which course I want to import from. And this is Pre-Pro Technical. No courses to display. Pre-Production Technical. So this is the way Daniel imports them. He goes and looks Pre-Pro Technical and says, oh, okay, wow, there's too many. Let's go with GD60 Pre-Pro Tech. Well, come on. No, because it's got to be a perfect match. Or you can do this. This is why you don't do it. So here's GD60 pre-production technical. So I'm going to import from this guy. And you can import multiple times into the same shell. The first time it'll give you the first 7 topics. The next time it'll give you 7 duplicates of it. So I hit continue. Again, Daniel does this. And then you choose what do you want to import. And you just keep going next, next, next. And when you're done, the empty shell now has a copy of whichever one I copied. You get how that works?
Yeah.
Okay. So once I come in, this is the way it was left the last time we did it. I'll tell you the first few things I do, and philosophically speaking, it's just my brain. The first one is I might change things during the course of the class. So I really don't want students looking too far ahead, because as soon as they look far ahead and I change that thing, now I have to explain why it's not what they originally looked at. Not to mention, Quinn has uncovered certain students that like to take a snapshot of Moodle and look at the snapshot from that point on and never the actual Moodle. Yeah. So I haven't run into that extreme version, but I have run into the other ones. So the way I typically do it is I go set some things up right away. First thing is I'm going to hide a bunch of stuff. And that just gives me some flexibility. I'm going to set up my main block here with the idea that people don't scroll very often. And so I want the stuff at the top that they need to see most often. So that's why I put all the assignments at the top. And if I want to put a link to the assignment in the actual topic, I'll do that. The next thing I do is I come on and I see all these blocks on the side. Well, the first thing I don't want people to see is all the changes I made. So I'm going to delete recent activity. They don't need to see it. I don't really care. I'm also going to delete the course date manager because I don't use it. That course date manager allows you to put things in this calendar. Okay? I don't use it. That doesn't mean it's not valuable. I just don't use it. I also delete upcoming events. The one I do leave there is ungraded assignments because that's my cue. As I flip to each of these each of these courses, I find ungraded assignments lets me know what do I have to do. You know, if I look at this one, oh, I have work to do. I haven't graded these yet. Okay?
Cool, yeah.
So I use that to help me do less stuff. So I don't have to track it externally. What else do I do here? I put the table of contents at the top because I actually use it, and I quite typically turn editing on and then skip to the right section and just go. For each section, I will typically, and I'm going to do this top to bottom, when I first get the course like this one and it's grayed out like this, means it's hidden from the students, but it's not hidden from you. And the moment day one of the term comes along, Daniel will go through and take each of these courses and make them visible. And what he'll do is he'll select my emerging technology development, for instance, and he'll come down here and he'll edit the settings on the course and he will make it visible. Where is it? Hidden sections. I can go into that stuff. Where's the visibility flag? There it is, course visibility. So on day one of the course, he just manually comes in and makes all the courses visible. Okay?
Is anybody else getting sort of a lower quality visual at this point, or is it just me?
Oh yeah, the quality has gone down.
Yeah.
Really? It's a streaming thing. I'm trying to do it through OBS so I don't have to send 2 streams through Discord.
I see. It's gotten better, but
you know what?
Just dipped for a second.
Why don't I do that?
That's definitely better, I think.
Yeah, it helps.
I'll make it fat. It can scale. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go through and hide things that the students don't need to see. So we all know the 10% attendance. We all know that we put a professionalism for another 10%. That's also outlined in the course outline. The number of assignments you have has to match what's in the course outline. So if you want to add 3 more assignments, then you got to change the course outline. Okay? This is where I usually put the dates. And actually, I made it too big here, but can you still see it?
Yes, yeah.
Kind of. So in the assignment title, I try and keep them short, but I also put which week and which day they're due. Right there, and I put those at the top so that there's no excuse. And quite often I'll do this. Oops.
I had a quick question about
Yep.
that. So for myself, I took over Mike's stuff, right? So
Yep.
I just used whatever he had done, which was due, and then he put the date.
Yep.
And what I found is that I have to always change the name
Yes.
in here, and then go and edit inside of it as well, and also pick the right date. So
That's correct.
To change things on my end.
Yep.
To do week 8, end of story on here, and then when I jump into it, I'd actually change it to the proper date. So not to change it in 2 different places.
I just changed it in 2 different. I don't think people look at it. Okay. But you're right. There's no fancy way to do it, so you only have to do it in one place. But you're right. You do have to do it. Go in and go edit. I want this week 8. And so I look on my little sheet and I say week 8, that's going to be June 23rd. And then I'm going to go down here and I'm going to choose June 23rd. Convention-wise, we always typically make them do it 5 minutes to midnight. Right?
Okay.
You can set up this allow submissions. In other words, you can't submit something early. I don't have it enabled. I have a cutoff date and a remind me to grade by date. The remind me to grade by date will send you a message. Okay. The cutoff date means you won't accept submissions past that point. In terms of submissions, and you'll love this one, you see here what I accept. You get 1 file of 10 kilobytes and it must be text. Period. No exceptions. And that's because the instructions say, send me a README file with the link to your Google Docs file, or send me a README file with the link to your Git repo. Inevitably, especially in term 1 and 2, a student will send you an email at 5 minutes to midnight. I can't upload my thing to Moodle. To which the most common feedback I give them is, did you read the instructions? Because the implication is you didn't, okay? And part of it is, for me, a lot of the web applications have lots and lots of little files in them. And Quinn can probably attest to the same thing. It's a whole lot easier for me to use Git to go grab it from their repo. If they gave me the URL so I can just copy and paste it, I can do git clone the thing I paste out of their README to the folder I want in 2 seconds. And I get it the way they did it. I'm not downloading a zip file, figuring out how they encrypted this zip file on their Mac, deciphering which folders I need. Oh, look, they did a A1 folder, and underneath that they did a course name folder, and underneath that they did an assignment number folder again, and underneath that they did now the name of the assignment. Now I have to pull that thing all the way out. So I just find zip files drive me nuts. So I just got rid of them.
When they also have on Google Drive, but access to restricted, so you have to send them an email.
Well, I can get to that when we talk about grading a little bit, because I have a grade for that.
Good idea. That's a good idea.
I'll show you that with one of them. Okay, the other things, so you can pick this though, okay? So customize this for the way you like. Don't use the online text. That means they have to go into a Moodle text box and actually type their stuff in. And because we don't like doing that for grades because Moodle can lose your stuff before you hit send to the server. So I just have them write it in a file. But you can make it big. But this is entirely set by the administrators at VFS based on how much disk space they want to allocate. So I think what you'll find for level design, Unity, and Unreal, 100 meg is almost not big enough.
Yeah, it's not.
Right? So you need to do one of two things. You need to either teach them what are the 3 files you really need to give me, or give me your Git repo and let me just pull it, right? And I've been thinking more and more about the Git stuff, which I want to get to another day, but I'm thinking in term 1, we can get them using Git on their local machine without any of the complexities of dealing with GitHub or pushing or any of that crap. Separate issue. Okay. The sections, I'll just whip through the sections here. When you're setting up, what kind of feedback do you want to give to people? I don't usually change that. Submission settings, usually you want to set these to no. This is the extra button, you know, when you submit something, it gives you the are you sure? And do you accept that, you know, you're not going to get it back? And the other thing is, I don't really count attempts. Like you can submit it 100 times. I don't care. I'm just interested in the last one. You can put students in groups. Glenn knows this because we do it all the time with certain projects. And again, I'm going to show you that in one of my courses. So you can group students together. So if you have a group throughout the whole term that's consistent, like we do in Project Dev, you can create groups in Moodle so that you can see them all as one kind of unit.
This is great. This might be good for twin, especially for team projects.
Yeah, I'll show you in the business of games because I do that in their groups as well. Okay. Notifications. Do you want to send nag mail to people is really what that is. Grade I'm going to come back to because there's a bunch of different things we can do. What you'll see here, I have the typical things you should have. So grading, we do a point scale, and the maximum grade should always be 100. Just to make your life easier. Everything's a percentage. Okay. I use a rubric, and I will show you the rubrics and how to create them. Okay. I also don't set a grade to pass. It's just don't do any fancy math on it. Just mark it and give them the number. Okay. The one that shows up in all of these will be the common module settings. I set it hide from students to begin with. And as I talk about the assignment in class, I will unveil it that day. Okay. And what I find, and again, this probably comes more from doing web stuff than anything else, is there's more web stuff on the internet than anything else. So inevitably, if I put an assignment out there that has a web assignment, some smartass goes and looks it up on the internet and does a completely inappropriate but working version that they copied from somewhere and says, I got so much stuff to do, I'm just moving on. And so by not giving the assignment until the class I describe it, then they don't tend to run ahead and go, oh, there's a different way to do this, or a new way to do this, or a better way to do this, or something I'm supposed to be learning or showing. So that's how I set those up. I'll go into the rubric thing when I show you the other course. So that's what I do for each. I guess I better save it, huh? So this save and return to course, that's where it's posting it to the server. The server's regenerating this whole page and send it back to me. So then I'll go through and I'll put notes in here, but I will also hide everything. Maybe not that. I can show that. This class list recordings, okay, I'm going to show you a different way I'm going to do that. So I'm just going to delete it. And I will reveal these kind of resources as we do them in class. So I go through the whole thing, and the only thing I leave visible is this description. Now, for each topic, the default here is it'll say like topic 1. For God's sake, don't be a rookie. Change the name of it from topic 1 to the actual thing you're going after. I actually put the week in here. You'll see how I just write this brief kind of like bullet points. The other thing I tend to do is I tend to write one of these things for every lesson. And these things are, if you come down and create a new one, pages. And page gives you just 3 sections of whatever you want to do: title, description, and content. Now, if you don't want to put content in, just put a single space. And it says, oh yeah, okay, I get that, because I'm not smart. Right? And it's just a summary detail thing. You can display them on the page if you want. And I can come here and make them hidden. So what I do is I make a lesson plan. I put in the title leave hidden so I don't inadvertently reveal it. I list the things I'm going to cover, and quite often if there's a slide deck to go with it, I have the link to the slide deck right there. So the students don't see this, but I see this. Now, I do this way because I'm usually working with Google Slides. My Google Slides might change from class to class. If I leave the link there for the students, they get the latest, greatest slides, which may not be the slides they got in class. They might get the slides for the next term. So I don't give them the link to my Google Slides. What I do is at the end of the class, in Google Slides, I save as a PDF and I attach the PDF right here. It's a permanent snapshot of the slides the day I did them. And that's what they get, right? I think one of the other things you'll notice is there's a bunch of formatting that's kind of, I use the indentation, move right, move left. Also, when I'm just doing a simple thing here, this is not bold. This is not the bold. In fact, the formatting here, as most of you have probably discovered, sucks rocks. So I hate to say I abuse the fact that I know how to do the HTML stuff. So I click this little button and I show the HTML stuff. You notice I ripped out all of the junk that Moodle put in, because it'll put in a whole bunch of extra paragraphs and spans and stuff. I stripped it down. All I do to make something bold is add that one style directly to the HTML. Right? So feel free to just...
Are you using all the other ones on your whole text, or just...
On the default ones, no. On the links, no. On this, I will definitely modify this. So here's a classic one. This is what Moodle does. Do you see how ugly this is? I'll show you the way it's supposed to look. This is an opening paragraph with a closing paragraph with no content. Doesn't need to be there. Those are just empty paragraphs. We also don't need this extra line break at the end. UL's unordered list. Bold, underline, these are tags that HTML has deprecated. They don't use anymore. Only Moodle uses them. And this is a non-blank space, which makes no sense at all for a single space. UL is an unordered list or bullet list. So everything's an open and a close, and that's how I would save that one. And magically it just kind of works because it's HTML. Right.
Why is it set up the other way?
It's trying to be safe. It's trying to set it up so that anything, if I just go in there and edit this and I put my own HTML in there, and my own JavaScript in there, it doesn't want to execute it. Because the HTML and JavaScript I put in there could modify the database. I could put some fancy JavaScript in there that sends information to the server. And so the way all of these systems do it is they take all the stuff you wrap in there and they wrap it in a paragraph tag. So it's not actually JavaScript now, it's just text. The problem is they're doing it automatically, so they get a little overzealous with it. The programmer is like, everything goes in a paragraph tag. If you hit the space key, it goes in a paragraph tag. Right? So they're so overly safe that it's painful. And then the auto generation, there's actually plugins that do the auto generation, and they're a little dated, that's all. Some other things you can play with, I inject images all the time. Jeff, you probably do the same thing.
I don't actually, surprisingly.
I think some of these things are really helpful. So I just take a snapshot of my Krita or my Photoshop or whatever I did the diagram in, and I just save it out as a JPEG and I slap it right into Moodle after the class. Okay. You don't have to. You can just... Yeah, you don't have to. You can just add an image. Usually they're labels. So if you look at these things, so you can add a file that literally adds a file they have to download. You can create a folder here if you want. Just remember that people don't typically scroll and they don't look inside folders. It's like, how many times do you get an email that has 4 PDFs in it? Do you look at all the PDFs? You got to be pretty damn interested. Right?
I don't even read my emails. So.
Right. Labels are probably the easiest thing. Labels are just pretty much a free-form text thing. You can do whatever you want here. So, again, if you want to go to the HTML, you can. But you see what the default is? It just immediately assumed I wanted a paragraph with an extra page break in it. No. Bad Moodle. Right? And I can flip it back and see what it looks like. Right? Of the icons here, they typically, if I want to make this bold, that'll kind of work. What did it do? It threw it in a paragraph tag. But the bold's kind of okay. If you want to make it a different color, now it's going to do some stupid things.
It's all inline CSS, right?
Yes.
You can have a...
Yes, you can see what it did here. So what it did is it added span, which is an inline thing, and it gave an RGB color to it. Okay. Don't get too crazy with the CSS stuff and the formatting. If you just keep it simple, you'll be fine. It's when you get lists inside lists, links, breaking links, images, video, audio. These two are for recording video and audio, and this is a generic asset insert, so it'll take video or images. So typically I just use this one to put an image in, right? And I'll slap it in the middle of a label and go. Honestly, recognize that you can drag and drop stuff into Moodle if the editing thing is on. So if I
use that a lot.
Yeah. So for these images, right, like I just save them out and then I just drag them in and add media to course page. Yes. Boom, done. Right? So we kind of walk through and do that. And in the beginning, I will also hide all of this stuff, including the labels, which is a bit of a pain to do. There isn't a fancy, easy way to do it.
Yeah, it would be great if you could just select which ones and then hide.
Now, the fancy way to do this, plug your ears, tell us, is I say, hey, Sean, go hide everything.
That's the best.
That's the most automatic way I know to do
Yeah, it makes total sense.
it. But it does make total sense, right? I mean, it's pretty mindless. It's easier actually if you start at the bottom
Yeah,
and you just kind of go hide, hide. Oh,
Yeah, the technology is here.
right?
Hide all, but except for the top.
Yeah, there isn't a fancy way to do it.
Yeah.
You just literally have to. Oops.
I used to use highlight.
It's pretty bad. Like, it puts like a one line next to the side, and like that's it. I'm like,
Yeah. You know, the only thing I use the highlight for, Jeff, is because with the table of contents, it highlights it here.
oh, I see that. I see that now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 has the okay. Interesting.
So if I go here and I go highlight that one, it automatically moves it. You don't have to undo it and redo it.
Cool.
But now
Okay.
should be this, and it even screws up the rendering. So
Yeah, I was gonna say like it goes in between once in a while, and I'm like, what's the point?
if you ever want to know what it's going to look like for the student, you can come down here and switch your role.
Gotcha.
And you can say, oh, what does it look like for the students?
Nice. Didn't know that.
Yeah, just like this one.
Right? So here I can see my fancy indentation sucks rocks. And I've got lightweight stuff there. So I'm going to go to week 3, for instance, and fix that up. So I'm going to return to my normal role, go to week 3. Did it turn editing off? Turn editing on, go to week 3. Right? Like, we're all familiar with this. And then here, I want this my fancy bold thing, so font weight. The numbers for font weights are between 0 and 1,000. And I just save, and all of a sudden, wow, that looks cool. I noticed the indentation didn't work quite right, so I'm going to double indent it because it'll look better. And if I'm being honest, you know, if I'm doing a lot of these, I'll just copy that, and then I'll just go into each one and paste it. Now, if you hide everything first, you don't have to do this all at once, right? You can do it kind of as you go because it's all hidden and the students can't see it. You can fix it up week by week as you go. You'll also see here I've got links to the assignments, and the links in Moodle are fixed. In other words, this will go to last term's assignment. Goes to the last assignment. So what you typically have to do just to verify is go back up to like that's 1. So I'm going to copy the link address, and then I'll go down to, what is it, assignment 3. And go edit settings, Control A, Control V, save and return to course. That's it. That way, if the students look here, they can click on this link, they'll go to the assignment. I like having the assignments at the top of the page more for me than for them, because I can see between the ungraded assignments and I can go right to the assignment and go right into view the submissions. Right?
Yeah, this was one of the feedbacks we got. They like when it's.
They like when it's at the top, yeah.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to me.
Okay. The last thing I'm going to show you, to make grading easier, like I use a rubric for big expensive or big hard to grade things all the time. And you've seen my spreadsheets before. But when I have stuff that isn't really worthy of doing the whole spreadsheet, here's what I do. I create a rubric in Moodle. So in this particular course, I do it in their teams. So the first thing I do is I come down here and I'll go to users and I'll create groups. So the groups got rolled over from GD59. So this is going to be GD60, so I need to remove all the groups. And we get to do all the confirmation stupidness.
Can you highlight them all and delete all?
I don't know. I don't think so. Or maybe Glenn is smarter than I am.
delete selected groups.
So like, I haven't put the group names together yet. I'm not going to put any text in there. I'm going to save that. And then I'm going to add remove users, right? So who's in this first? What's the, you guys remember? Don't make me do this twice.
I have no idea.
Oh, you need the list of features? I can give you one.
Yeah. Here, let me back up and actually name it properly.
Okay.
So you go here, edit group settings. So what's the first? Give me the team names. Like,
No, I don't know what we're doing.
I have to look at them on a sheet of paper I have.
Let's go with Army. Let's go with Army.
But that's their team name. I don't want their team name. I want the game name.
Well, the game name. Well, Alex Wonderland.
What is it, Alex?
Wonderland.
Which has absolutely nothing to do with their game whatsoever, does it?
And it's not Alex King in Wonderland. So.
Yeah. And who's in there? We know George is in there because he's going to do everything.
I've got the sheet for you guys here.
You got Matt and Peter.
There you go.
I'll put this on staff there for you guys, but this is the one that I always look at. I don't know who's the one that's maintaining this one, but it's got all pages.
That's I kind of mean.
Okay, yeah, I think this thing is extremely useful. So
While we're here, I'm going to rename all the Discord channels so it's updated.
Oh, good. So once I have the groups here, and I'm not going to do them all right in front of you, but once I have the groups, it tells you when you go to add remove users, who's in a group, right? You see they're not in this list anymore.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So
okay,
you know you got everybody when there's nobody in the list anymore, or you got solos. Then what we do is we go to an assignment and we edit the settings on the assignment. And I put the description in as normal. And I put the due date in as normal, which is not going to be January. This is going to be, what's it say, week 3. So I say week 3 is going to be, what do we got? Wednesday. Let's go do this first. It's going to be May, Wednesday the 19th. May 19th. Maybe I'll make that, May. Okay. So now I got the date set. This one you're allowed to have 2 files, 1 megabyte total. You can send me a zip file. It's probably because it's the first assignment. I have a little bit of a grace period. But when we talk about grades, I go to rubric. And if I'm going to set the rubric for this, most of them will be set as simple direct grading, which means you just put a number in and then you get a box to put some feedback in. If you go to rubric, you get to actually build a way to just hit tick boxes. All right? So once you select rubric, what we do is we go down here and we go, where is it? Oh, my mistake. This guy. Here we go. So you go to Advanced Grading, and under Advanced Grading, there's a Define Rubric. And if you click Define Rubric, you can just edit the current one. You can put your own description in, but what you get is this little grid you can create. And for each entry in the grid, you get to define different selections that you can make. Okay? So the trick here is, if you look at the way I've done the submission, nothing submitted gets you 0. Okay? Submitted as a zip file or not following direction gets you half of the 10 points possible. Submitted as direction but missing information, in other words, did I have to do work to get your assignment? You get 7 out of 10. Submitted correctly, you get 10 out of 10. Can I get to your business case? You didn't submit anything, you get a 0. No documents, 0. Access denied. Okay, so I might see that it exists, but you get 1 point out of 5 if I can't see it. I don't even ask you. Because once it's access denied, everything else is going to be a 0, right? And exists and accessible. So just for existence. Now, I've got a whole bunch of criteria for this thing, but I'm going to show you the way it works if I actually go grade it. Let's go look at the second one here.
I'd also like to see how you actually set it up. Like this, I set one of them up.
Yeah. I'll go add something to one. So I go view submissions. The reason I do the groups is I can look at the groups separately and it shows me just those guys.
Oh, that's cool. I see that, yeah.
Okay. And then when I click grade, it lets me do this. Yep, 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 yep. Yep, 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 yep. Yep. Yep, yep. Yep. Save and show next. Boom, done, graded.
You know what? This is really cool, and unfortunately, with a lot of the art subjective criteria,
Yeah.
it's a little more difficult to
So
specifically say, you know what, left elbow, is not, you know what I mean?
right. So
You're gonna have to.
the trick to these things is you have to have an assignment that can be relatively generic. You also notice how I deal with late, because you can do negative points.
You also have this extra comment section. Right?
You can put a comment beside each one, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So if you have the criteria a bit more generic, you can talk about the elbow, for example.
Yeah.
On the actual one.
So what I do with these, Jeff, is if it's a relatively simple assignment, in other words, I can grade it quickly by just looking at it, then I might have something like, character has appropriate number of joints, not appropriate number, perfect, and in between, I'll create a couple steps, and if I want to put comments in, I'll put them there. I don't use this for everything. Be clear, I don't use this for everything. I use this for stuff I can grade quickly. Okay? The other thing I have learned is, you notice how I've got exactly 4 elements in each one? Okay, the thing that makes it fast is putting exactly 4 steps in each one, or 3 or 5, but make them the same number of steps. If I've got 3 choices here and 5 choices here, it gets ugly because of the way it formats it. So like here's one with 5. You see what it did? So now I'm picking the last one, but really I have to kind of read them, but they're all squished now because, oh, well, that's just painful. Okay. So I don't do this for every kind of assignment, for sure. There are certain assignments, particularly these ones are all documents, and I have very specific things I'm looking for. And when you set them up, advanced grading, define rubric, where is it? Down at the bottom here, you can, I just leave everything ticked, which means all the students get to see all of those rubric criteria ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
So when I want to create them, as Glenn asked, you click Add Criteria, and you can also move them around. So you can put them in order. You get used to writing them a certain way, right? Character has joints.
Do you have to add the points yourself, or does it count for you?
You do have to add the points yourself, but it automatically kind of levels them up for you based on the previous one.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Right?
Like the total at the end, Alex?
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no. It does that for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Can the students see the rubric before?
Yeah, if you display rubric during rubric description of those being graded, and allow show remarks, yes, and allow users to preview rubric. You have to tick the right things to let them see. So I just leave it wide open and let them see everything. How many of them actually dig into it and actually look at the criteria? I would guess, 1 in 100.
I think that increases because from class to class, because a lot of the students are kind of, well, my grade, I knew right. Why did I get 99 and not 100? So they do want to look at the rubric. I'm finding more. I don't know about the other class.
I'm kind of curious, like, once, at the end of this, I'd love to kind of piece through what I do as well, just because it's very different in a lot of ways than what you're showing me here, which is interesting. Now, like, it's such a unique way that you're setting things up, and I'm kind of curious how far off I am, or maybe there's something different that, might spawn an idea as well.
Well, I do, as far as grading goes, this isn't the only way I grade things. This is the way I grade things where I know I can grade the entire assignment in one quick sitting.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean just for one student or one group. I mean for the whole class. Because what I'd hate to have is have 3 students out of 30 get their grades and the other ones haven't got them yet. Right? That's usually the criteria for me. If I have a student that or a assignment that I know is going to take the students or it's going to take me more time than one day to do the grading, then I'll actually do it in a separate spreadsheet. And I will do those. I will enter them all at once, and then I won't use the rubric. I'll use just the straight up points.
But what if you save as a draft, everything, and then just send one by one?
You could, but you're relying on. I think the reason I haven't is that in past we've had lots of times when I'm in the middle of typing something for one student, and if I inadvertently hit the back button, I lose everything I typed.
Oh, wow.
Okay? And if you have 30 students in a class and you've entered comments for 12 of them and you're about to push save, and you inadvertently hit the back button to go look at something else, now you lost all 5 of those students' comments. So honestly, if I'm doing something that takes me a while, I'll use a spreadsheet for it. Same idea with the criteria, but now I can go through the whole class, tick them off as I do them, and this thing auto-generates the comments into a results thing, and that way I can just go type in 100, cut and paste, and I can enter all of these at once.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'd love to see what you do. I can't today, another thing. But one question to ask yourself is, what is the problem? What is the problem that I need to solve?
Yeah.
And everything that Scott showed me today, solving of that. So as Scott was showing this, this is perfect for my team management class. One of them is the essay.
Yes.
There's certain criteria for, and there's a point system for each one. And so this would be super easy for me to do it this way and get to them much faster now.
Yeah.
For other things, like Scott was saying, I still need to use my spreadsheet.
Yeah. So
and I think it's a sprint, so I set them up in such a way. All I need to do is copy and paste them into Moodle, save it, and it's done. And it looks good on the student's end as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do the same thing, Jeff. So for the programming assignments, I typically use the spreadsheet. Also because Sean and I can do a 2-pass thing on it. So I'll get Sean to go through it once and do the whole spreadsheet as he sees. And I'll go look, particularly if you have a big GD class that's a full 30. It's nice to be able to look through that spreadsheet that the TA went through and go, these 5 things I need to look at because they were really good. These 5 things I need to look at because they really sucked. The rest in the middle kind of fit the curve the way I think, and I can go poke at them if I have time. That's the way I approach the programming ones, because usually in that spreadsheet, maybe 20% of the total grade is the application works. The rest of it is about how did you build it, right? Whereas the one I'm showing you with the rubrics, it's actually the business of games class, and it's slide decks, spreadsheets, and documents. Whereas Glenn said, I have like a dozen key points that I make during the lecture that I want you to include in your assignment.
Yeah.
And I'm just checking that those points are there. 90% of the time for those kind of assignments, it's like, I asked you to do a diagram that shows X. I don't really care what's in your diagram. I just want to see that you did a diagram. And then I see your diagram and it's got no titles, no names, no callouts, no dates, no author, right? So now I'm like, okay, do I give them 0? No. So I do 1 line in that rubric. Thing has a diagram. 0 doesn't have a diagram. The first step has a diagram, but it's rudimentary kindergarten level. Second one, it's kind of what I'd expect out of a student. It kind of illustrates what you want, but it's not really professional. And the last level is, this is exactly what I asked for. Thank you. Tick.
Gotcha.
And the thing with setting up those rubrics is you can roll them forward from class to class automatically. If you've got stuff that, this particular class I don't mind doing, even though I've got 6 assignments in it in 7 weeks, because I can mark one of them, because it's team-based and because of the rubric, I can mark one of these in an hour.
Yeah.
Right? Sense. So that means they get their grades faster. They know where they stand. They can ask questions next class. Right? So I find that is better. With the programming ones, I find it very much harder. And you probably find the same thing with some of the art assignments. Is 1, you don't want to do 6 assignments that you have to mark. And 2, the complexity of them and the things you're looking for means you probably have to open up each one in the tool, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, particularly in the first 2 terms where you got 30 of them to do, it's like, oh my God, there's 30 of them. Right? But one of the things that, there's different ways to do this. I don't know whether Quinn does this or not, but if I have a small class and I get their access to their Git repos as part of what I asked for the assignment, I'll put the detailed comments on their code as to-dos, as comments in their code, and check it back in for them. By the way, Scott's edited your source, and I've added a bunch of comments, and the comments show up as big red to-dos, and guess what? You should probably do them. Right? It's always curious because I'll get code back in the second assignment, and it'll still have a bunch of those to-dos in it. Cool. Comment number 1. Why didn't you fix all the to-dos I put in the first assignment?
There's a reason why I put them there.
Was I just wasting my time? I guess that's not a comment you want to read, right? I'm trying to show some of the things we can do in Moodle. The other thing that I didn't show in Moodle that you might get it, if you have this, you can duplicate things. So like these resources, when I'm building new topics, I just duplicate them. And feel free to delete them. Right.
Hey Scott,
Yep.
You know how we can make new teams or groups in here? Is there a way to share a grade? Or if someone do one, they share that grade and comments with everybody in that group?
I understand there is. I haven't found a nice way to do it. Using the rubrics, the way I was showing you here, if I go do this and view it, what I'll do is I'll grade one of them. And then
Yeah, that's what
instead of just transferring it across, this one's, if I keep the number of things relatively minimal, what I typically notice is that I can recognize them positionally.
Oh, yeah.
This one's down one. So 2.5, 3.1, and 3.2 are all one step in from perfect. So then I can go save and show next. And then I can go this one, and I don't really even read that one. I just go in and tick, tick, tick. Those three are down. Those three tick.
Well, doesn't it show a summary of, so the one you just marked, doesn't it show, like if you go over to the right, doesn't it show a summary of all it's like in that weird HTML format?
It will.
And then paste them into the other team members? Because that's what I do with regular stuff.
Yep.
So, for instance, I'll give Ash the grade with all my notes, and it's shared. So when I go to this screen here, but over on the right, it will show it in a not viewable friendly manner in HTML.
Right.
I just highlight all of it, copy it, paste it to all, put in the grades individually, then save it. That whole team is done. I'm just wondering if there's another way of when I do one, I save it.
I haven't found it. I haven't found it. Oops.
I think I asked Mary that.
Let's do the. I don't think there's an easy way to do it. I could be wrong. I'm going to go take a look. There, you can see these. So this is what it shows you. So if I just pick Tomers, when I go back in and click on grade, you'll see all his links. So I just kind of go, oh yeah, 2.4 is down one. So then I can go, I go look at, say, which girl. Well, that's not going to be helpful. Yeah. So I'll grade one and I'll say like 2.4 and 3.1 are down one. And then I'll copy that comment. And then I'll just come here and I'll just go tick, 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 boom, tick, tick, boom. There's no easy way to say do it for the whole group. Right? I wish there were. I'd like to be able to grade the group as a group.
Yeah, that'd be smart.
Right? The one caveat I will say on that, and you saw how I did the late things. So for late stuff, I put deadlines, I subtract points. What part did you take? Contribution? None. Added? Did it all. Created, edited, format, bulk of everything. Or contributed an equal share.
That was individualized for sure.
So that one had to be individualized. So it makes sense that I'm not doing it for the whole group.
Yeah.
Right? But this is the one I learned, is that kind of like, if one thing has 5 gradients and the other ones have 4, it's kind of a pain to whip through quickly. Again, I think of these things only as quick assignments you can whip through quickly.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
I hate being limited to stuff.
Right. I think it works better for documents, because in documents you kind of like have this bullet list of here's the 5 key points I want you to make, and you're not going to make them all the same way. So it's a lot easier to just have a rubric or a list of the points you wanted to make, and say yes or no, you got them or you didn't. The spreadsheet comes in when you actually have to subjectively, have to go back here, and for your interactive UI, then you got points for every different thing. And these ones are a little bit different in that there isn't a graduation. It's kind of like it did or it did not, right?
Yeah.
And if it did, you get the 3 points, and if it did not, you get nothing. So.
Hey, thanks for showing this
Right.
last part. This is what I was looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, the other part I typically do, like, hide everything except for the title and the description at the top at the beginning. That gives you the freedom. I've done 2 ways. One is you're taking over a course from someone else, and you have to, I can't get the whole thing done before I show it to them. So if I hide everything, I can stay a couple weeks ahead. The other one that's happened more recently is, depending on classes, some go faster, some go slower. And it's a lot easier to shuffle around your contents if it's all hidden. You can turn around and say, look, I only got through 2/3 of what I was going to get through this class. But if they haven't seen the next class yet, then it's really easy for me to take that last third and push it down. Right? And over time, that gets you a better kind of timing of how long it takes you to get through a class and what's the right amount of stuff. And then occasionally you come across dumb classes and you end up with topic 8, which has, 50% of the content in it. And it's hidden. The whole topic is hidden at that point, right? It's like, this is the leftovers that I want roll forward to next term, because I know it really should be in there, but this class was dumb like posts, and so I didn't get through most of the content, right? I spent most of the time teaching them how to start up a terminal and type GIT. Yeah.
So you were mentioning the fact that you were going to go look at like Git. Maybe this.
I think we should do that a different day.
Oh, no, it's fine. It's fine. And like
Yeah.
I said, I got to start from scratch on that one, so I'm going to be like wide-eyed and like, I understand Perforce, but I do not understand Git at this point. So
I can definitely draw the parallels for you. Quinn can definitely show you the gotchas.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with Quinn that source tree is an easier first step, and I would go a step further in that, because I'm doing it sometimes with digital design students. So if you think game design students are slightly non-technical in some cases, you should try sitting down with 8 designers in term 2 and teaching them programming without spending 4 lessons on Git. And the easiest one I found is that I don't even approach GitHub in those classes, but I will introduce Git, because it's easy to install Git. It's easy to install source tree. It's mindless. And if I have a local folder that I can keep background history on, just by doing commit, 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 which is just a save point, and then adding branches about halfway through. Oh, we want to do something experimental. Let's create a branch, and we'll commit to that branch. Oh, here's how I can go back. And I'm not connecting it to a remote origin. I'm not connecting it to a remote cloud-based server at all. It's just locally on your machine. Can I save backup copies all in the same folder? And the answer is yes, you can. You can do all of the Git stuff locally. It's more than one file. There's a whole structure and folder that's hidden from you, but
Oh no, but Charles, you mean if you just have one file to back up? You can,
Yeah, exactly.
you can absolutely do that with the one file.
Yeah.
It's just subversions, right? Like the whole point is it takes the same file, diffs the difference, and then says this is version 1, this is the difference between version 2, and then it just keeps
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
But I definitely want to start doing that too.
But I think if
I need to do it on my project right now.
Yeah, but if we did it, well, we use you as a demo.
Please. I need
But if we did it from term 1, but just locally, no GitHub, just install source tree, be able to save backup versions on your local machine, then Quinn and I know how to later come on and go, oh, we've created a GitHub account for you, and if you enter this command or go into source tree and enter this thing under the remote section, all of a sudden you can connect to this server and make a backup copy in the cloud. Your same backup copy in the cloud. I think that might be an easier, that's probably something that if you guys did just at the end of term 2, so that as you rolled into team project, they already were familiar with doing commits in Git. And at the end of term 2, you connect up a remote. So when they start doing their team project, they're already conditioned to do saves or commits regularly. And the only thing you have to teach them at that point is branches and pushes. Maybe a pull and merge and all that kind of craziness. But, it's kind of like break it up into 2 steps. That's just my opinion on doing that. I mean, I know most studios that went Perforce because it's an easier concept to grasp. But the problem with Perforce is twofold. One, it's a centralized server. So we need a server, and the server is stupid expensive. So Git was the distributed answer to that. Right. If you're EA or if you're Blizzard, buying a Perforce server is not a big deal. If you're, Joe's fancy mom and pop game shop, buying a Perforce server is like dropping 3 new PCs on the budget when you can barely afford to keep your staff eating. It's like, oh, that's just painful, right? So, and then there's the whole, it's Linux and it's administered and you have to have it, and it gets crazy fast. Perforce is definitely faster with big files. I can tell you the 2 big companies, Microsoft and Google, use Perforce. Yeah. Google has one singular Perforce repository for everything. Now, that must be the advantage of having a cloud infrastructure at your disposal that they hook up as the data, like the disks behind Perforce. Google might have the expertise to hook up an infinite size cloud behind Perforce, but Perforce is fast enough to keep up. Microsoft uses it for Windows. The Windows build has been reputed to take a week to generate. The compile time to build a full version of Windows is reportedly a week. Compile time.
Sorry, is that fast or slow? I'm an artist.
How long does it take you to build your game in Unreal?
I think it's like 40 minutes.
Right? So Windows 10 takes 7 days.
Wow, that is a lot. Yeah, okay.
And it's not that it's like one monolithic program, right? It's like you go into the Windows folders and you got like 350 different programs and 27 different folders, and each one of those is full of DLLs and programs, and every one of those things has to be rebuilt.
Interesting.
So I would not want to be the build engineer for that. That's a team, people. It's like, heaven forbid someone finds a bug somewhere. You're like, no, not another bug, because that means I'm going to have to rebuild all of them. So I'm sure they just do partial builds all the time. That's their thing. So that's just me sharing what I do. You can also look through everyone else's Moodle. And that's how I learned most of this stuff, is I actually started dissecting other people before me's Moodle and went, oh, hey, this is a cool thing, pages. I don't have to show them everything. I can write myself a little, note to self. Labels and pages, note to self. Labels, for the labels, I typically, every topic is laid out the same way, and that's mostly for the students. I guess the one thing I didn't show you, maybe I should show you these guys. So I live stream this all to YouTube. And when I go to YouTube later, I go grab the link. Old course. Go grab the current one, because the links will still be there. So here, this one, so that's a Zoom link. Here's one of the current ones. Let's do these guys.
YouTube logo is just an image, right?
Yeah, I just uploaded the YouTube logo as an image to my thing. And I typically will do this these days, is I'll put the PDFs of my slides as the kind of indented content underneath the video. And the video link, I do the same font weight thing. This image is that image from my personal files. So you can upload personal files. And I set its width and height. And then this is my YouTube link. Target is blank, which means it goes to a new window. And class, no media plugin, because Moodle wants to automatically play YouTube videos. Like, if you just drag the link into YouTube, it will create the video right there.
If you move your aref,
Okay.
Let's see how better.
if you move your aref to the left, can you make the image clickable also? I don't think your image is clickable.
Yes, you can. I didn't.
It would be pretty interesting.
It would be absolutely no big deal if you flipped it around. So I could take the anchor and put it outside of the header.
Yeah.
You know.
I got it. So it's HTML and
It's 100% HTML. So if you know HTML, now you can click the whole thing, right?
Yeah, nice. Cool.
And then once you've done it once, cut, copy, paste, right? Like I duplicate that, right?